corruption, and in which he probably tells anywhere from 3 to 5 dozen lies, like bald-faced lies, over the course of the evening. So I just don't want to provide any legitimacy to a presidency that is losing its legitimacy day by day. You're also not going to hear anything about what people are actually going through in this country. He's going to tell you that the economy is all roses, that there's no problems anymore in America. And so our State of the Union on the Mall is going to be populated by real people who we brought here from our states and districts, who are going to explain what's actually happening out there in the country, what the consequences of Trump's corruption are: flat wages, prices going up, factory jobs leaving, and laws being violated on the streets of every single community in this country.
Senator, it's Chris Hayes. You know, we were saying earlier that the sort of context here is so different from a year ago because of the political situation the president finds himself in, which is way, way, way weaker than it was a year ago. And I'm curious, as you look at the trajectory of the last year, how you understand the deterioration of his political standing in sort of 3 different lanes. Decisions you in the Democratic Party and as the opposition have made tactically, conditions in the country, and overreach and mistakes that they have made. Like, how much do you think this is, his weakened position is borne by good politicking by Democrats, and how much it has been other stuff?
Well, I think that it's a bet he made that has gone wrong. He decided that his second term was going to be an organized kleptocracy, that he was just going to steal full time and make him and his family as rich as possible. And he was going to make a bunch of his buddies as rich as possible along the way. And that if he at the same time destroyed democracy, destroyed dissent, he could get away with it. The problem is he hasn't gotten away with it. He's injured our democracy pretty badly, but the people are not cowed. They are still showing up to special elections, to protests, to rallies in huge numbers. I think they're going to get their clocks cleaned this November, and a bunch of people are probably going to end up going to jail. Now, part of that is that Democrats haven't made mistakes every single day, right? We effectively shut down the government over a really important issue, the stealing of people's health care. We are shutting down the Department of Homeland Security right now because they're acting illegally. We have been able to leverage the power we have in a way that has been not always, but at times pretty damn effective. I think why he is suffering is because the people just have not been silenced. He thought he was going to be able to destroy democracy and get away with it.
Senator Alicia Menendez, you will not be in the chamber tonight, but a number of your colleagues will be, including your fellow senator from the great state of Connecticut, Senator Blumenthal. Do you think they should heed leadership's warning to avoid outbursts?
Oh, I guess I leave it to everybody to decide what to do inside that chamber. I mean, every one of us makes a different choice here. I just don't want to be a backdrop for I think the clownish behavior that the president is going to exhibit on stage. I'm not going to be mad at any of my colleagues if they speak up, if they talk back. I mean, remember, that president is likely going to call out individual Democrats in that chamber. If you're called out in the middle of the speech, you know, that's your own decision as to how you want to respond. I think everybody's going to do what they feel is right in this moment to speak truth to power inside the chamber or outside the chamber.
Senator Chris Murphy from the